Hey there guys, this is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tosuke. As I've mentioned several times in this on this channel and in other videos, especially in one of my most popular videos, I'm a pretty big fan of the Champions of Norrath games. And I did a video about the possibilities of Champions of Norrath 3, and I know there are a bunch of people who saw that and have also been posting on various forums like, why isn't there a Champions of Norrath 3? And this isn't like a news thing or anything, but I feel like, and this isn't like a top 10 or anything like that. This is more like just an editorial kind of thing, I guess. There isn't going to be any footage, so if you just kind of want to listen, that's fine. But I picked like a few games that I think are good, a good supplement to Champions of Norrath and something that kind of tides you over if they ever do decide to do a Champions of Norrath 3. Though I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's going to happen, at least not in the way we think it is, because the developer of Champions of Norrath, Snowblind Studios, they merged into Monolith Studios, or they merged with them, Monolith Studios, and then they got bought by Warner Brothers, and they made Lord of the Rings: War in the North, and I think they made like the that one like card or little chess Lord of the Rings game, and they may have had a hand with Shadow of Mordor, the latest one. So I feel like now the Snowblind Studios crew are more or less the Lord of the Rings people. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for Champions of Norrath, EverQuest. And so that, and also with Sony Online Entertainment, I feel I'm going to go over it when I talk about the specific game, but there's a new, they tried to make a new, like a follow-up to a spiritual successor to Champions of Norrath, but it didn't really go over well at this point. It did make it to 3 games, but it didn't really go over well. So I feel like at this point they may consider it sort of a failed idea. So I don't think they're going to make another one on the grounds that the team who made it won't be working with them anymore. And I don't think they have the confidence to try to make it themselves because I feel like they might not think it's good enough. But, yeah, so that's what I think. Again, perfectly possible for them to make a new one. I would personally love one. But, yeah, why don't we just kind of jump into it? I'm going to start us off with a few obvious ones that are pretty obvious to the this franchise as well as the game type, and there'll be some honorary mentions as well, but yeah, so why don't we just go ahead and jump right into it. Now obviously the first game you're going to want to take a look at and possibly give a try is the actual sequel to Champions of Norrath, and that is Champions Return to Arms for the PS2, released I think a year or two after the first Champions of Norrath. Takes place after the first one, new villain, you get a choice of being good or evil, there are new items, weapons, armor, new story, updates to mechanics, new attacks and spells and whatnot for your class. Like I know the Dark Elf gets a Rise Army one where they can literally like rise dead characters. And for the Erudite or Erudite Shaman, you can actually give them a new perk that lets them use bladed weapons. So if you want to make sort of like a magic knight or something, you can do that. And that's and there are some others to name a few, and you can also, you get like throwing axes and throwing knives and whatnot. The only two new classes are both male characters. So the Vashtir Berserker, which is the tiger person or lion person or whatever, and the Ixar Shaman, the lizard people. I guess if the Ixar Shaman, then the Erudite Druid, I think? I don't remember. Like, basically like the black magic person. And so they don't... in terms of, like, new characters, there's not too much... It's fine. I mean, but the new ones, there's only male, even though you can be a female in EverQuest. But so yeah, obviously you can go with the sequel, and personally I like it. It has a multiplayer battle arena as well. It's like both cooperative and a versus kind of thing. and that's pretty fun. And there's more side quests you can do to unlock a very special sword. And it's generally it's a pretty fun game. And of course, obviously, it's a sequel to Champions of Norrath, so obviously it's probably the first one you should take a look at. But you're not here to play the sequel of Champions of Norrath. You're here because you've already played both and you want to play a third. I get you. I understand you. We've got that little connection going. I get you, man. I get you. Oh, and one more thing. You get to import your character from the first game. How cool is that? But yeah, if you haven't definitely played Champions of Return to Arms, it is definitely worth your time. Go play it. Now, if you're more interested in the gameplay of Champions of Norrath, that like overhead, like grid-based dungeon crawler, Western kind of game, you should definitely give Diablo a try. In fact, some might consider Champions of Norrath to be a Diablo clone, like a lot of games are, or a Gauntlet clone, which I'll give a little thing about in a minute. But yeah, Diablo is definitely a series you want to try. I've only played like the demo of Diablo 2 on PC and Diablo 3. And of course, Diablo 3 is on console, and so you probably should just play like the latest one. That's probably the one to give it a try. But yes, and the one thing is that they give you a lot of classes and genders and whatnot, so they're not like gender locked or anything. And there's general stuff like I'd probably play a Crusader or a Paladin or something, but you can't really customize their appearance. You can give them different armors, and it'll show up at least in Diablo 2 and 3, but you can't really customize your character's appearance, which may turn off some people like me, because I really got into character customization and character creating and like the avatar thing from Champions of Norrath. That was like the first game that I really sort of noticed it in. But yeah, and the first Diablo, there's a port of it on the PlayStation 1. So if you're kind of looking for like a retro-y kind of game, that might be a good one. Of course, Diablo 2 you can still find in stores. Though if you're looking for like the real Champions of Norrath experience, I'd probably go with Diablo 3, since that one's on console and it plays more like a console version of Diablo. And the way it's set, from what I understand, it's like there's like a dungeon that you go into, and that's sort of like the main thing. You can also do side quests, so it's definitely and it's got like a main hub, so I guess it's kind of more like another one of the games that I'll talk about. But yeah, Diablo is a good game to go towards if you're looking for if you're more interested in the gameplay, more interested in the gameplay of Champions of Norrath rather than the story and lore. Now, if you're more interested in the story and lore and the world of Champions of Norrath, EverQuest is definitely the one you got to go with, because it's the same world. This isn't like an approximate where it's like, oh, it's like a similar or anything like that. No, it's the same world that Champions of Norrath takes place in. It's in the subtitle of the friggin' game. Champions of Norrath, Realms of EverQuest. It is an MMO, so I'm talking more about the franchise in general, though. Like, there's like a card, like there's like a Hearthstone clone, even though I think they did it first. And there's also Lords of EverQuest, which I believe is a RTS game. So if you're looking for your WoW clone or your Warcraft clone, you can play that. But at the heart of it is the MMO, like the original EverQuest. It's still going on to this day, and it's free to play. And there's also EverQuest 2. That's the one I play that you've obviously seen. I've done like 3 videos on it. First one, that first video with Lemoy, and the new one where I just did another commentary, and the latest one, which was like a subscriber special, like I think, yeah, where I decided to just kind of play the game a little bit. But yeah, so EverQuest, definitely good to go with if you're looking for the story. And I play EverQuest 2 personally. I mean, you can really go with either or. EverQuest Next is the latest one that's going to be coming out, and from what I've gathered, it's going to play like Neverwinter, which is another MMO that had more of like an action kind of battle system, so it won't have auto attack. And I think it's going to look a little more cartoony, but like it's not going to look really gritty and dark like Champions of Norrath. So there's that. But honestly, like after getting into Champions of Norrath, I got into EverQuest. Like Champions of Norrath is what got me into EverQuest. And while it doesn't appetize everything that I wanted from Champions of Norrath, it does give me the world and story and whatnot, and that's good. That does satisfy one need of mine, and I still play EverQuest 2 every now and then. I haven't been playing it much. I've been meaning to, but yeah, the EverQuest franchise, definitely a series to go for if you are more interested in the story than the actual gameplay. Now, the last one of the obvious ones, quote unquote, but this is also sort of the start of the ones that you might not have heard of. This game series is the three that I was talking about. That Sony Online Entertainment tried to make as sort of like a spiritual successor to Champions of Norrath, and that series is Untold Legends. The first game is Untold Legends Brotherhood of the Blade for the PSP, and then the other one for the PSP is Untold Legends Warrior's Code, and then the final one on PS3 is Untold Legends Dark Kingdom, though honestly, you probably should stick with the first one. I think the first one is the best out of all of them. Like Diablo, it kind of has like the hub thing, but like Champions of Norrath, it has multiple dungeons you can go through, and they have like a gate back system that the Champions of Norrath games have, except it's not with like gate scrolls. You can do it whenever you want. And it plays very similar, if not almost exactly the same as Champions of Norrath, except instead of like just swinging just repeatedly over and over and not really, you have like a little combo you can do, as far as I can tell. Like it actually has a full combo that you go through, and then it just repeats. Like you don't just keep slashing over and over, and then they occasionally will vary it up. But you can still just constantly press the button and whatnot. And it was my first PSP game, and I actually really enjoyed it. It has more of a medieval kind of feel to it than Champions of Norrath, and I feel like because of that, it's a little lighter in tone. There isn't much voice acting, and there isn't much voice dialogue, and because this was an early launch PSP title, the loading times are actually not that good. So if you can get like the downloaded version or like emulated or something, it'll probably work better. But I definitely like it, and I still play it I'd love to be able to finish it. My guy's a dual wielder, but yeah, this game is actually not that bad. Honestly, Warrior's Code is not bad either. I'm at a part where I'm kind of stuck, and I still need to actually buy the damn game. Dark Kingdom is where they kind of dropped the ball, and it's kind of sad too because early promotional shots showed what looked like a really cool game. Like they had like this really big, beefy class that was like a brawler, but like he had like this little thing where he could like pick up stuff and move blocks, and it was actually really cool. And like look up Untold Legends Dark Kingdom prototype or something, and like it looked really cool, and I was honestly excited about it. And this was during the time when the PS3 was coming out. It kind of missed the launch, but it looked really cool, and I think it was probably the second PS3 game I ever played, and it actually wasn't that good. Like it, though, probably the biggest issue out of the entire series is that the classes are gender locked, meaning that the classes like just stick with either male or female. Like you can't switch. Like the knight is male, the berserker's female, the druid is male, and the mage or sorcerer is female. Now, for the first game, it isn't necessarily, the way I see it, it's like it's not necessarily gender locked because, like knight and berserker, they're both kind of like melee. They're different types of melee and different kind of categories, but they're both like the melee type. And, druid and sorcerer or mage or cleric or whatever, they're both two different types of magic, but they're both the spellcasters or the ranged people. So I feel like it was a bit of a compromise, even if it was still gender locked. The second one, Warrior's Code, it's okay. Like for that one, they were doing more of like stylized kind of characters. Like they have a really big burly guy as a knight. I think they call that one the warrior actually, and then they've got like this slender sort of dark, this like slender assassin guy who was the original guy that I tried playing as. And then they got like this little girl, like this little chibi twin pigtail anime girl. So it's more like a stylistic kind of thing. Dark Kingdom, which thinking about it, I feel like I kind of get what they were going for. I think they might have been trying to copy Gauntlet. But you know, the classes were not only gender locked, but in Dark Kingdom, the weapons were also locked. If you wanted to be a warrior, you had to use like a hammer or an axe. You couldn't use a sword or sword and shield or what have you. Not even a big sword. You had to use like a hammer. And it worked as like add-ons. Like that's how the equipment worked. Like it wasn't like upgrades or add-ons. Like it wasn't like just getting new equipment. And I feel like that kind of took away from the experience a little bit. I didn't make it past like I tried playing with AJ because it being on the PS3, it's multiplayer. And of course, the PSP ones are also multiplayer, though I think it's online only. I think the second Warriors Code has online, but I think the first one is infrastructure only or ad hoc or whatever. Yeah, I think ad hoc. Or I guess you could do ad hoc party if you wanted. So. And that's kind of where the series dropped the ball. Like Dark Kingdom did not do well, and when I'm done recording this entire thing, I might look up some stuff on it because I feel like it had so much potential, but it could have been a lot better. And I say Gauntlet because like they had like the male warrior class, but like the paladin or like knight class was a female like Valkyrie like thing. And I think there's some others, but overall, I'll probably still buy it just because I'm a fucking idiot, but I definitely would recommend the first two over the third. Personally, the first one, but if you want to play the second one, I think that one's also decent. That's just me. But yeah, if you're looking for the spiritual successor and you kind of want to see where the series could have gone if it continued, or a more original story, if you just kind of want to just play like something new, like I don't know, like Demon Souls versus Dark Souls, but yeah, Untold Legends was Sony Online Entertainment's attempt at a spiritual successor of Champions of Norrath, and I think it could have been good. The first two games were good. Third one, not so much. The last game on this list that actually plays like Champions of Norrath, because the rest of them are going to be like games that I feel like are good substitutes if you're trying to kind of upgrade your experience a little bit, is this last game that plays like Champions of Norrath is the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance series. I've only played the second one. This one, it also has like the classes are gender locked as well as race locked, but it's more like a D&D simulator, I think. And it plays like Champions of Norrath, and in a way is a little bit more advanced because in this one you can actually jump, and in towns you're not allowed to you're not allowed to attack anyone because I cannot do that here. And of course the Moon Elf, I think. Yeah, the Moon Elf actually has a skeleton summon spell, and it's kind of funny because it's like they don't have a weapon. They just go around punching things, but they're like the same kind of skeleton too, where they just go off and do whatever the fuck they want. Like they don't give a shit. They're just like skeleton. And so this one came before Champions of Norrath, so it's almost like the daddy of this entire thingy, I guess, or at least the daddy of Champions of Norrath. And I believe they're made by the same studio too, or at least the second one. I haven't played the first one. I've played the second one. Truth be told, I'm not entirely into it. Again, I feel like it's more of just like a D&D simulator, like literally just like a certain, like a storyline or whatnot. Actually, the only reason why I even played it relatively recently is because in the second one, at least, if you beat the game, you get an unlockable character, Dritz Dordan, the Dark Elf, the Drow, if you will, from the Legend of Dritz series by R.A. Salvatore, and I wanted to play as him. And he has his, like, general weapons and whatnot. it's him, and he talks sometimes like your god is down, and that's kind of cool. And of course, he starts off like really pepped up, like he's like level 20, because I guess at this point he'd be like a lot more powerful, and I think that's kind of cool. I actually took the time to use cheat codes to unlock that, so and try to unlock him that way, because this game has cheat codes. More than Champions of Norrath. Champion Norrath only has the level 20 cheat, and Return to Arms actually doesn't. Of course, there are games now like Dark Souls and whatnot, where, of course, modern games, don't have cheats. But, yeah, this game, it's really only on the list just because it plays like Champions of Norrath, and it's a little bit similar. You don't really get to customize your character that much. You do get to equip them, and of course in Untold Legends you can completely customize them, at least until the fucking third game. I think you can customize them a little bit in the third game, but I'm getting off track. Dark Alliance, and this one, there was actually going to be a third one, but it got canceled. And I don't know, maybe they'll make a third one. I'd play it. Like if it was just a Baldur's Gate, like it was just like you didn't have like pre-chosen like stuff, like maybe you got a chance to choose the entire race roster of dungeon. That'd be really cool, actually. Or if it was just exclusive, like something like, I feel like if they make a third one, it would have a lot of potential, and could potentially replace the whole Champions of Norrath thing. And this is more or less the Dungeons and Dragons foray into the Champions of Norrath, the Diablo thing. But yeah, so I'd only really recommend this one if you like D&D, or if you like just playing a story or something. Like, go play it and see for yourself. Speaking of modern games and Dark Souls and whatnot, the next game on my list is actually Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1, and also maybe even Demon Souls. Heck, I feel like the Dark Souls series and Demon Souls was sort of like a modern take on Champions of Norrath a little bit. Champions of Norrath is a very, like I said, it's a very kind of gritty sort of game, and I feel like Dark Souls 1 fits that bill the best in terms of its look. Obviously, the gameplay is very different. It's more precise. A lot of people compared the Dark Souls series to Monster Hunter because of its precise control, though, as I stated in my Dark Souls 2 Ivory King DLC stream, the two games are very different, whereas I feel like Dark Souls is more about the exploration, so that kind of RPG trope, I feel like, kind of makes it sort of fit in this category a little bit more. The story is hidden. Like, it's not like, your typical story where, like, oh, you have to do this and this. I mean, they give you, like, a goal, a main goal, and, like, you kind of have to uncover the clues about it yourself. Like, I feel like Dark Souls 2's story is a little bit more clear than a Dark Souls 1. Demon Souls, I feel like, also had a bit of a clear story. I mean, that one I feel like was more medieval than anything else, and I feel like Dark Souls 2 is probably the most polished in gameplay. So the main reason why it's on here is because of the fantasy and the whole RPG thing. It's very different from Champions of Norrath. But the reason why these kind of games are on here is because ever since I played Champions of Norrath, I've been hungry for like Western medieval RPGs, and the Dark Souls games I felt like were part of the what I wanted, more or less. Like, it kind of added more to it a little bit. It's not everything that I want in a Champions of Norrath 3, but it's pretty dang close, I guess, or it's similar, at least similar to what I want, not similar to Champions of Norrath. Let me make that clear. It's what I mean is that, like, I got really into the series, and I hope they do actually make a Dark Souls 3. They should make both. So what I'm getting at is that, like, Dark Souls became another one of my favorite games because of Champions of Norrath, essentially, because it's what got me into the Western RPG genre. Like, I go out on my way to play so many, including some that aren't really that good, like Bound by Flame, in my opinion, which is part of the reason why it's not on here. So that's the only reason why I'm making the connection with Dark Souls and Champions of Norrath. The two games are very different, but I feel like if you're looking for just a new kind of medieval game, and you're like me, where playing Champions of Norrath has gotten you into medieval games, Dark Souls is probably a good one to go with. Like medieval fantasy games, like high fantasy or what have you. Dark Souls is a good one to go with. You get to customize your character really well, and you can do whatever class you want. Just set up your character how you want. You can't be an elf or anything. You're stuck being a human. I guess that's one of the issues. And the game's pretty hard, and they kind of take a spin on the whole currency thing with souls and whatnot, and that's also your experience. But yeah, Dark Souls, I'd recommend it at least. So I'd only, so again, like if you're like me and you're just kind of looking for a new Western RPG to play after Champions of Norrath, possibly while you wait for Champions of Norrath 3, Dark Souls is a personal recommendation from me. Next is sort of another thing like Dark Souls, where it's more like an honorary mention or just another medieval game to kind of serve as an appetizer and tide you over for Champions of Norrath 3. I'm putting in the Elder Scrolls because that's also another series that I got into because of my sudden interest in medieval fantasy RPGs, thanks to Champions of Norrath. My favorite's Oblivion, but I think on the screen I'm showing Skyrim, which is the latest one, which as far as third person goes, plays a little bit better, and you could probably mod the game or just set up the camera to where it kind of looks like Champions of Norrath. But the third person is definitely better in Skyrim than anything else. And of course the whole open world thing, different races. So it's really more like, Champions of Norrath than EverQuest than Dark Souls. So if you're looking for something that's more like EverQuest and Champions of Norrath and like just how the medieval world is constructed, the Elder Scrolls might be a good game to go with, I think. Just the entire series, and again, my favorite's Oblivion, but it's an open world RPG. It's not like a dungeon crawler kind of game, but you can still like do dungeons and whatnot. So I feel like it's really only similar just on the race tropes, like the different elves and the tiger and lizard people, and the general world, and the different types of worlds you go to. Because in Champions of Norrath there was a desert level and a tropical level, and a hellish level, and a sort of planetary sky level, and a wood elf level, and the dark elf caves, and the Elder Scrolls has those kinds of places, and because the worlds are so big, they're elaborated a little bit more in the Elder Scrolls. So really, it's on this list just because of the slight similarities, but again, just different kinds of stuff. It's more of like, again, like with the reason why I broke up, like if you are looking for the story or looking for the gameplay, same thing here. Like with Dark Souls and EverQuest, I feel like it's more if you're looking for a similar world, because obviously they don't play like Champions of Norrath unless you want them to. But yeah, both Dark Souls and Elder Scrolls are probably two of my favorite Western RPGs right now. So definitely worth a try. Remember how I said that Dark Alliance 2 was going to be the last game that actually played like Champions of Norrath on this list? Well, I lied. I'm also going to talk about Gauntlet. And this one's also the most recent because there's a new one that came out like on Steam and whatnot. And in my personal experience, I've played both Dark Legacy and Seven Sorrows. So far, my favorite's probably Dark Legacy, to be perfectly honest. I think Seven Sorrows is more like Untold Legends Dark Kingdom than anything, and that's not good. But yeah, so I guess for my personal recommendation on what little I know about this series, probably Dark Legacy, plus mainly because in that one you can put in like different names where you can get unlock special characters, like you can be a football player or a ninja, which is what I originally chosen, or a schoolgirl, that's kind of cool. But yeah, with Gauntlet, that one seems to be like the granddaddy of this genre, like even before Diablo and whatnot. So if you kind of want to go back and ignore all my and ignore like my thingies, but that aren't like just the Diablo clones, then Gauntlet, among the other ones I mentioned, are probably the best ones to go with. And I haven't played the new. I want to try. I hope it's on PSN because I'd really like to play it on PlayStation. The classes are, I believed, gender locked, but that's okay. They give you a. It's like Untold Legends, where it's a compromised gender lock, where it's like technically they're giving you both genders and both types of classes. They're just kind of, it's like a different kind. Like they're trying to like do like an ultimate like compromise thing just to minimize your choices while giving you both minimize and maximize your choices in a way. I haven't even seen any videos on this on the new Gauntlet. I'll have to look some stuff up. But yeah, that's more or less the games that I think are good appetizers for new Champions of Norrath. And of course, like I said, Dark Souls and the Elder Scrolls are just my personal picks. Like I probably could have thrown in Dragon's Dogma and Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning and Fable and what have you. But I picked those two just because I feel like they have like a similar world and a more action-oriented combat in this sense, like Dark Souls with Champions of Norrath, and in the sense of Elder Scrolls, I felt like it had a similar like world and just general rule set and whatnot. Because with the Elder Scrolls, it's got like the tiger, the Khajiit, and the Argonians, the lizard people, which are more or less the Vashir and the Ixar. I think the Vashar are actually getting new names. They were showcased in the in the game, and I might actually make one in the future. Probably not as my main character. I'm talking like in terms of EverQuest Next. So yeah, like I only put that because I only put Dark Souls and the Elder Scrolls on this list because again, Champions of Norrath made me interested in the Western RPG genre, and I wanted to go out of my way to play all of them. And Dark Souls kind of happened. Like the Elder Scrolls was probably the one that was like the most genuine of this thing. Like, oh, it's a medieval game like Champions of Norrath. I want to play it now. So these are just my opinions, and again, it's not a top 10 list. These are just like games that I think will serve as a good appetizer for the possibilities of a Champions of Norrath 3. Personally, I don't think they're going to go through with it. And the closest thing we're going to get right now is probably EverQuest Next, because it'll play more like an action game, and it's using the world of EverQuest, which is what Champions of Norrath was based on. Personally, I feel like the one thing that EverQuest is really lacking in terms of different types of games is an open world RPG. I would love to see an EverQuest tie-in, like spin-off like that, because we have Lords of EverQuest, which is the Warcraft clone, Champions of Norrath, which is the Diablo clone, Heroes of Norrath, which is the game that started the trend for like fucking Hearthstone and whatnot. They don't have a MOBA yet, which they could probably do. I don't know if they have enough characters to warrant one. It probably would have to be an original. So I feel like in terms of the EverQuest franchise, the one thing it's lacking besides a MOBA is a open world RPG. And Champions of Norrath kind of was like that. It wasn't really an open world RPG, but it was definitely a Western RPG where it's more action oriented gameplay, a medieval world, create your own character, side quests, and like more of an emphasis on like the world and adventure and whatnot, and a story and whatnot. So I feel like I would love to see that. I don't know if anyone's watching this, and I don't know if anyone from Sony, is watching this, but yeah. So yeah, definitely give all those games a try again with Dark Souls and Elder Scrolls. I really only have them on there because one, I really like them, and two, again, Champions of Norrath made me really interested in the genre. Plus, it would be kind of boring if it was just all Champions of Norrath / Diablo clones. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the games that are worth playing to appetize you for a Champions of Norrath 3 or whatever. It's really late, so good night.